My name is Ivan Taylor, and I'd like to share with you today some work that Tak Ono and I have been doing on a system dynamics approach to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Um, Tak has done most of the work on this model, so I'll pass the floor to him to do the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Ivan. Before I get into the details of the model and our work, I wanted to give a very brief background into the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. So they were established at a UN Sustainable Development Summit in September 2015. And the main goal of that summit was to develop a 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And out of the summit came 17 identified goals covering people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And these 17 goals, you might be familiar with this graphic. They were established at the summit, and this is a framework that is much needed for sustainable development. But from a system dynamic standpoint, there are challenges that we face. One of the main challenge is that there's no clear understanding of the causal relationship between the goals. So without a clear understanding of the relationships, we don't know how to make an informed decision or prioritize or plan, and there's no way of predicting what may happen in the near future. So we used our system dynamic approach as a proof of concept. And in our proof of concept, we relied on data and method that the Sustainable Development Report, SDGindex.org, they produced. One of which is they produced a correlation matrix that looked at the connection between the 17 SDG goals. And we use the correlation values as a proxy for causal connection as our initial approach. And as we looked at a high correlation as a rough equivalent to a strong causal connection. And from the same source, we also extracted data from a specific country, Pakistan, because they produce yearly reports on SDG scores for all 17 goals. They apply their methodology to apply a score to all of the countries. So we extracted data for Pakistan, and we used that data to calibrate the model. And we use the same data as the initial values, as well as we used the data as near-term goal values. And we use the values to project into the near future. And you can see this correlation matrix that they produced. You can see that the correlation values range from 0 to 1, but there are also negative correlations that we took into account. And you can see that correlation values differ significantly. And we actually set up the model, these correlation values as a threshold. So basically, what correlation value are you willing to accept as equivalent to a causal connection? So the model is equipped to account for any value between 0 to 1, the threshold that you're willing to accept as a causal connection. And you can see that the SDG scores changing dynamically on the fly. So the main conclusion we can draw from our preliminary work is that goals are interconnected, and they can either be reinforcing or balancing. So progress in one goal may or may not necessarily be progress in another goal because of the way that they may be connected. Uh, and some of the future work that we're looking at is, so we mentioned that the correlation matrix as a proxy for causal connections. So we want to look at how to establish true causal relationships between the 17 goals. And we also recognize that we're not the only people working on this much needed work. So we're certainly interested in collaboration with people that are working on this from similar or maybe different approaches. And also, another work that we're interested in is that the SDG goals, they actually, within them, they contain many individual targets, and we're interested in applying a similar approach to those individual targets and see whether we can establish causal relationship among those individual targets. And ultimately, we want our approach to be beneficial to the people that are involved. So in the future, we're interested in producing a tool that people can use to experiment with the various SDGs and targets. So with that.
Okay, thank you very much, Tak. Yeah, basically we're looking for collaborators, and we think that system dynamics can be a useful tool to look at the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you have any contact information that you want to share with us, we'd be happy to work with you and possibly apply this model to your country. Thank you very much.